been an icon in many cases within the business community, within Hong Kong and really all over Asia, but also within now a freedom fighter. I personally don't really call him an activist. I call him a freedom fighter for all the dedication towards freedom of his homeland he has taken in the last few years. So my name is Se-Hoon Kim, a senior correspondent and the assignment editor for the Global Stratview. I'm joined by my editor in the back, who's also a very good supporter of all of our issues such as this. And I'd like to formally introduce Mr. Elmer Yuen, who is an entrepreneur. He's also known as industrialist, but also at the same time, as I said, a well-known freedom fighter. And today he'll be sharing with us about the future of Hong Kong, and in particular the project that he's working on, which it seems like it will have a very big global but historical impact. And so, Mr. Yuen, thank you so much for joining us here today at the National Press Club.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Yeah. Do I need this?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Okay. Well, Elmer, let's just get started. If you can just tell us a little bit about a bit more about your background, and maybe we can also transition into the situation in China and in Hong Kong. Then we'll move on to your project with the Hong Kong Parliament. So if you can just start with your introduction. Yeah.
Yeah, I was born in Shanghai, and my family, we lost all our business to the communists. That's back in the 1950s, where they nationalized all the business. And very quickly, within 5 years, they took over Shanghai. Shanghai became like a communist city. No, you don't see any personal ownership of anything. People are dressed the same, and then suddenly all the money is gone from their bank account for no reason. And all the business, property, somehow lost everything, all the Shanghai people. And my family clan, had about 60,000 members. We were the only family, not only half of the family. My father left first, and in 52, and me and my elder sister joined in 57 to Hong Kong. And my mother and two younger sisters were left in China for 20 years. Because my mother, being an evangelist, was arrested and sent to labor camps for 20 years. So that's the way they treat all religious leaders. And so we have a history with the communists. We understand what they do. And so I grew up in Hong Kong. And in Hong Kong, as you know, it's a money city. You, in order to be successful or even to survive, you have to know how to make money. So that's all we do. And until about 4 years ago, they were talking about sending Hong Kong dissidents to China for trial. So that's how we saw this huge demonstration going on about 3.5 years ago in Hong Kong. And then I saw what's coming again. We ran from Shanghai to Hong Kong. Now they are going to take over our family and our asset again. So I've decided, at my age, I've done enough business, and I have to do something for Hong Kong. So I've decided to stand up to them. I know quite a bit about the communists. I spent 10 years in Beijing with the so-called the Communist Party members, their families, and also 10 years in Shanghai. So I know them very well from inside out. And also because of my family experience, I have no doubt what the communists are capable of doing. So on the other hand, also, I travel a lot. I've been traveling I'm one of the highest mileage guy on United. So I travel a lot, and I believe somehow this mission fits into my personal life. Maybe maybe it's a calling. So anyway, I believe I'm the right person to do something for Hong Kong against the Chinese Communist Party. That's why I decided. I left Hong Kong for more than 3 years.
Great, and thank you so much for sharing, Elmer. So let's that transitions into our next topic about the situation in China. You said you've been in touch with many of the government officials in the past because of your business background and such. So if you can tell us a little bit about the current situation in China and what has rolled into the situation that we see in Hong Kong. If you can give us a bit of a context as to how all of this happened. As you know, according to many news reports, the level of tyranny within China has grown over the past 10 years, especially with Xi Jinping coming into power. But it begs the question of, okay, what is going to be next if it continues the way it's going right now? And final, with seeing how the freedoms within Hong Kong has been eroded in such a fast scale. So could you just give us a bit of a context behind what the reality of Hong Kong and China right now?
In the last 30 years, China have made a lot of money, mainly from the United States. I would say anywhere near $20 trillion, exporting huge amount of goods to U.S., IPOs, loans, and through Hong Kong. And a lot of Chinese people are working outside and sending money back. I mean, they're talking about almost 70, 80 million people outside China, and they've been sending money back periodically. That's the way it is. Has been. So they make huge amount of money. And that money never went to the people, Chinese people. The People's Bank of China kept all those foreign currencies. And they gave them the funny money, the RMB, to the people. It's like a casino, right? You go to a casino, you get chips. And they take the cash, you get chips. And you gamble and you have a good time, right? You win and then they give you a big win. And only when you go back to the cashier to cash your chips, then they start giving you restrictions, this and that. This is what's happening in China. All that money that U.S., mainly USA, the other countries have a pretty balanced trade with China. The U.S. have been pumping the money, your retirement money, your all kinds of institution funds and so on. It's gone to China because that money doesn't make any difference if it's here or it's in China. China pays higher interest, and they give you bigger dreams. All this is nothing but a Ponzi game, Ponzi game. But while this is in the last 30 years, you have new money coming in and cover their own old debt and keep on going. But the problem is the COVID. COVID stopped everything, and what happened is they don't have unemployment, welfare, and so on. So people are using their money, personal money, paying mortgage and all their expenses. And they don't really have a deep pocket when it comes to, a lot of people are not that rich. So suddenly the engine stopped. It's like a car. The car stalled, and now they have problem restarting the car. That is... it's here in the States. I mean, the government gave all the employees money during the COVID. And they suddenly now they can go out and spend the money. And then the economy start turning again. Not in China. It stopped. According to some satellite report, that in the Chinese pedestrian have reduced by 70%. Because people got used to stay at home, cook their own meals. They don't have enough money to go out. Can you imagine the economy suddenly lost 70% of people going out? That's how bad it is. There are so many problems. I'm sure you read about it in the paper. The unemployment is huge. In the urban area, talking about, I think you've read it. I would say in terms of absolute number, almost 200 million in the urban area. And in the rural area, we believe even more. But they never report it, all right? They play with numbers and so on. They have a huge unemployment problem. And on top of it, no job. Only half of them are no job and no income, and they have to pay their mortgage. As you know, the property market went crazy in the last 10 years. So everybody's speculating. People are carrying more than one mortgage. It's very much like a subprime in 2008. So they keep on having to pay. And the banks are ferocious. They would stop your credit. In China, it's very easy because you pay by your phone. They don't even use credit card anymore. You pay with WeChat or you pay with Alipay, and they can stop you right away. So I believe by the coming winter, some people will starve and some people will freeze to death. And it's going to come. But you can never read in a report. It's like how many years ago in the early 60s, almost I can confidently say 50 million people died of starvation. And now some have even higher numbers. So I believe the Chinese regime is in trouble. They will have to take some drastic step to stay in power.
One of the questions that's been floating around is what has the role of the Western world been, and particularly the role of the United States to help the people of China or even just in Hong Kong?
They are really not aware of how desperate the situation is, because they don't allow Western reporters. If you badmouth them, if you report the truth, they say you badmouth them. So next time they won't let you in. They won't give you a visa, or they would not grant you they won't grant you access to the press conference. So the West, even though we are living in the world of internet, yet they have very limited knowledge. I would say I wouldn't be surprised if the information you get here is as a 1 year old. So very different from what's happening in China right now.
Okay, I was just it also begs another question. Then, what is if you can just give us a context of what's happening in Hong Kong under the so-called national security law? As you know, because of that law, the government has had a wide range of quote unquote rights to do whatever it wants under the name of national security. If you can just give us a bit of a context behind that as well.
We had the national security law 3 years ago. And basically, this law gave them all the power. We do have a separation of power in Hong Kong. We have very independent judiciary and so on. But this law basically overrules everything. And it's like martial law. They can do whatever they want. They arrest whoever they want. So we lost all our freedom, rule of law, and democracy. It's very much like a police state under martial law.
So with that, we're according to what you said, we're seeing the complete violation of the one country, two systems policy, of course, which we have been seeing being eroded in the last, especially in the last 3 years. Tell us a little bit, Elmer, if the alternative that you have come up with. I mean, I know you've spoken extensively on the Hong Kong Parliament, which we would say has become your invention in a sense. So could you give us a bit of more information about that?
Hong Kong, the whole idea about this national security law, the reason for this national security law was because people want to have election, universal suffrage. That's what they want. And that was what promised to them back in the 80s and the 90s. And it's in the basic law. It was promised. And the communists keep on pushing it off until they know there's no way to push it. So they've decided to come down with this national security law so that you won't be asking anymore. They've been pushed to a corner because they promised. It's not that it's been promised to the British And of course, it's within the United Nations they are committed to. So people, the younger generation, our generation, we are doing okay. We thought we make enough money. Worst case is we migrate to Canada or UK or Australia. That's what we think. But the younger generations are different. They are professionals. They are not businessmen like me. So they have to look at what's my pay, what's the future of my family, my kids. Once they start thinking about that, they understand the difference between have democracy or no democracy. They don't want to end up like the mainland Chinese with nothing. So they are really, their whole fate, when they will tell you to stay home, you stay home. For 3 years, you stay home. That's China. So Hong Kong people, when you saw this demonstration, it's the young people leading the elderly people like me. And they want democracy, like your youth, like everywhere else. And this is something that the communists cannot deliver. Because if they give you democracy, that would be the end of communism.
So with your Hong Kong Parliament effort, what are some of the ways that you are doing? Will be using that institution to combat everything that you just spoken of. I know that you've spoken extensively on the erosion of rights, of course, in Hong Kong and in China, but this sort of takes a revolutionary step in terms of giving people the actual right to vote for whoever they want, even in exile. So if you can just...
What I'm doing is really nothing special. It's the basic democracy, and everybody have the right to vote. It's nothing historical about it. But when you face the communists, this is a huge crime. If you talk about democracy in China, that means subversion. You want to overthrow the communist regime. That's the way they immediately. That's why they have a warrant for my arrest and the bounty. So what they are trying to do is to have absolute control. You've never lived under communism. Absolute control means everything. So what I'm trying to do is to give basic rights, basic democratic right to people so that they can vote. We have a secure mobile voting system via the internet. That's not traceable or hackable. So I'm using this, and the communists are really scared to death because it's a challenge to their monopoly of power, and that they must extinguish me once and for all. That's why they detain my family, and the pressure will increase. They are afraid of competition by the people, competition of self-determination and rule of Hong Kong or rule of China by people. And Hong Kong is like a little fire. Once Hong Kong starts, the rest of China may follow. Especially we speak Cantonese, across the border. And so what's happening in Hong Kong may happen in China. They are afraid of losing power. So what I have done is nothing special. Just everybody has the right to vote, including those people in Hong Kong. And so far, we still don't have a firewall yet in Hong Kong. So people in Hong Kong, around 7 million who are eligible to vote, and about 3 million Hong Kong people outside of Hong Kong. So we're talking about total of maybe 10 million people. But I'll be very happy if 1 million outside Hong Kong would dare to vote.
You said the birth of democracy, or even the practice of democracy. My apologies. Will eventually, in your view, will allow the Chinese people within China to eventually follow if it lights up in Hong Kong. But that makes us all wonder, with the current situation in Hong Kong, where I guess the government recently just announced that they are going to be dealing with soft resistance, which they said, which in a sense, anything and everything that you do can be interpreted as a threat against the government. How likely do you think is that possible? I mean, are you trying to get this started in the exile world first and then applied within Hong Kong? Or do you think once this is launched?
It's one parliament for all. Mm-hmm. And voters will come from Hong Kong. Everybody who has a passport. There's a chip in the passport, so you can really easily vote without having to register, because the passport will have all your information. So basically you use their passport and their mobile phone, which that can read the chip, and then you vote. It's quite secure. I have it in the press kit.
Right.
The whole process.
Well, the other aspect of this that you mentioned is the election commissioner, right? So in terms of the logistics of how the Hong Kong Parliament will be run, can you tell us a little bit about the election commissioners and how it's a little different than what it was before?
Yeah, so far we have electoral organizing committee, basically organizing, but there is no power. So now, once we confirm the election law and this secure voting system, then we will invite reputable people worldwide to become election commission, member of the election commission. They will be like the judge or the referee for the election, and they have that power. And then to approve the law and so on. So that's going to happen sometime in August. And then we are going to ask candidates to start registering immediately, maybe like September, and then the rest of the year for campaigning. And by the end of the year, we should have a voting happen, so that we will have our Hong Kong Parliament within this year. This is our target. But more than that, what's the first members of the Parliament? They will be drafting the Constitution for Hong Kong. And after that, it will go back to the people for a referendum.
So then, I mean, it sounds absolutely wonderful, but there's also obviously some concerns as to how successful this will be, especially when there are risks of being traced, for example. Many exiled activists have been targeted, like yourself, for actually taking on this fight. And what are some of the steps that you and the Parliament will take in order to ensure a level of safety for those who are participating in this election?
Those who are running for members of Parliament, they have to take their own risk, being prosecuted or being chased after by the communists. But the voters, I believe we have a very secure system that is not traceable or hackable. It's all done offline with your mobile phone, reading the chip in your passport. And then we scramble it using a code for voting. So that's what we are trying to avoid, the voters exposed for prosecution. So we believe it's going to work. But we can never say whether the people, the voters, feel comfortable or not. Somehow, hopefully, throughout the campaigning and so on, the enthusiasm, and also the Hong Kong government plus the communist Chinese are putting a lot of pressure on Hong Kong. If they are angry enough, they may vote.
So in that case, just turning directions a little bit for now, when it comes to the role of the press in this matter, one of the questions that we received from the audience is what do you think is one of the biggest blind spots, although for the Western reporters when writing on the CCP? What's something that you think Americans don't understand about China at all? And how do you think this type of misunderstanding or a lack of understanding affects even the future of Hong Kong Parliament? Because in a sense, for sure, it's going to require some type of international support as well. So, yeah.
I'm very happy to be able to host this gathering here because I think you have a huge network worldwide, and it will be a lot of people. This is the first time we do an English-speaking announcement, and a lot of everybody in the world will be able to understand what we're trying to do, and this will give more support. We need a lot of support from other governments, to be sitting on our election commission, and also encouragement from different countries. And we hope through your institution and your connections network, we'll be able to achieve that.
Well, going by what you said, I know earlier you've mentioned the absence of press freedom at all in Hong Kong, and how that served as a warning, serves still to this day as a warning to the Western countries. For example, we saw the last remnant of press freedom in Hong Kong being absolutely annihilated recently with Apple Daily pretty much going down. So in a sense, another question that we've gotten just rolling around that, a judge in Hong Kong just overruled a government ban on a song even. Does that make you optimistic at all about standing up to China?
The Hong Kong judiciary system, the judges, most of them are still from the old days. So they have not retired yet. So we still have some independent judges who are able to rule based on the old law. But we also have a bunch of 30 national security judges, and they would detain people, and for indefinitely, even before trial. So like Jimmy Lai, of the owner of Apple Daily, has been detained for already 3 years, and still waiting for trial. It's horrible. They do whatever they want, but it's in the transition period. I think eventually they will control the entire court, including everything. That's why all the businessmen and also the foreign capital, like an investment banker from U.S., are all leaving. We have very serious financial problem in Hong Kong, public finance. And the communists have been using Hong Kong to cash out their RMB. So they, for instance, they pay Russia RMB to buy their oil and gas. And the Russian came to Hong Kong and changed the RMB into US dollars. And we have a limited reserve of US dollars. So it's a big problem. The whole Chinese and Hong Kong economy is going down very, very quickly. You see some significant, almost every day we have very serious report. And you see a big difference by the end of the year.
Speaking on absolute control, obviously we're seeing this trouble that you just mentioned in Hong Kong and really all over China as well. But in a sense, living in this globalized environment, it seems that whatever China does affects all of us, even especially those living in East and Southeast Asia, and of course in South Asia as well. Leads us to the next question. Many nations in East Asia, like Cambodia, Myanmar, the Pacific Solomon Islands, and in the South Asian Sri Lanka, for example, supporting the Chinese model for development, partly because of the CCP's expansionism over the years. There's a debt distress, however, and political instability. And how would you assess this environment? Especially, also, this begs the question: if you're looking for international support for the Hong Kong Parliament, I think this question would really serve as a relief to a lot of our minds in the international arena. In the sense that, well, China is really this powerful entity still, and we're just wondering what your assessment for this environment is, and how do you think this will spell out for the support for the Hong Kong Parliament in the future?
I think the Hong Kong Parliament will result in a government in exile. From Parliament, we have a constitution, and the constitution will be able to establish a government in exile. And we can do a lot of work outside of Hong Kong. And we won't be able to return to Hong Kong until the communists collapse. That's the reality. Let's not hope too much. Nothing will happen. But on the other hand, the communists have serious problems. They are really collapsing fast, economically especially, and politically because of one-man rule. There are a lot of problems. I would say I wouldn't be surprised if 90% of the Communist Party members are against the present political situation in mainland China. So we hope, the Jews waited 2,000 years to go back to Palestine, and we don't mind waiting in exile. But we have to stay organized.
So what has been the response from the Hong Kong community regarding the Hong Kong Parliament already? I'm sure the Hong Kong community, even in exile, has a wide range of opinions and political viewpoints. Just tell us a little bit about how it's been received and all that.
So far, they're very scared. Mm-hmm. They worry about even downloading the apps from the website. They're worried about. So that's normal. That's normal. But when we see the candidates running for MP, when we see them debating or arguing and so on and so forth, and then the voters will take side, that's where the excitement will start. So far, we just tell them it's safe and they understand how to vote. But eventually, I think we have to depend on the candidates to create the excitement. And the overseas, I'm sure the overseas Hong Kong people will have at least 10 times more voting rate than those people in Hong Kong. So let's say, for instance, if 1 million voters, maybe 100,000 from Hong Kong and 900,000 from outside.
So in that case, Elmer, with this Hong Kong Parliament being launched this year, the other question that we've received from the audience is, how supportive do you think people already inside China will view this? Obviously, even after the white paper revolution, as we call it, in the past December, we've seen a lot of people within mainland China taking a stance against the CCP. However, now, you don't really see too much of that anymore, obviously, for maybe the censorship, the obvious censorship that we've seen from the CCP. But it seems like after that, there is a hope for some type of a positive receiving from the Chinese people. So, in your opinion, with all of the experiences that you had in China, how do you think people within China will view this?
A lot of secret discussion, but they are very negative in appearance when they talk about it. You can't blame them because democracy have never come to China and Hong Kong. So they never had experience. Taiwan had very good experience. Taiwan have changed their presidency already 3-4 times. So Taiwan have really enjoyed the fruit of democracy. But mainland China, very cold, very, they don't believe it will happen because they grow up under communism and they think this is the life will be, always be with communism. That's why you saw the Tiananmen dissidents today. Very few of them talk about overthrowing the CCP. They are just saying, "Oh, we hope to have a better leader or better," but they don't talk about overthrowing the CCP once and for all. They don't have such. So we don't expect too much. But China is a very large area, and the area near Hong Kong, the Guangdong province, we speak the same dialect. So I'm sure we have a huge influence on them.
When you say huge influence, do you mean the type of influence that Hong Kong always had, where it's, for example, we've seen in the past, during the Cold War, we've seen an influx of mainland Chinese immigrants coming to Hong Kong. Do you think it's that same type of sentiment will rise again? People standing up for democracy, especially with the current economic situation.
If we are successful in Hong Kong, I think at least the Guangdong part, the southern China, they will follow. That's what I believe.
Do you think that also has to do with the government's past efforts to basically implement more of Mandarin education as well? We've also seen a bit of a resistance, which we don't really hear, obviously, in the past few years of Cantonese revival movement. So do you think that would be a part of that?
They've been trying to do away with Cantonese in the last 70, 80 years. Try to force them to speak Mandarin and Putonghua, but not so successful. Cantonese are very, very independent. As you know, Sun Yat-sen came from Canton, So these people are very independent. And so far you see very few. I haven't met one Cantonese government official in Beijing. This kind of they distance themselves from the communism.
Well then, on the flip side, you've also mentioned Taiwan earlier. Earlier in our conversation, you've also shared your fear for the future of Taiwan. Do you think maybe even just being a little bit of a devil's advocate here, if this project falls and all the other efforts to spread democracy fails, what do you think will be the fate of Taiwan?
Not directly related to Taiwan, Hong Kong. Even though our demonstration kind of influenced the Taiwan election last time, right. They knew that the communist idea of one country, two system is not trustworthy. So they've decided to vote for Tsai Ing-wen and stand up to China. So what's going to happen? I'm a little bit worried that the economy of China will be so bad, and they may resort to war with Taiwan. May not be a total invasion, but maybe some kind of a skirmish, some kind of a conflict, and that may solve some of their problem. As you know, you start something outside, you can pacify your countrymen in mainland. So I believe that Taiwan is, of course, a very positive thing for Hong Kong, meaning that Chinese can also exercise democracy like everybody else. And Singapore, almost 90% they are Chinese, and also they are doing quite well, not as good as Taiwan. And so, louder, sorry. So I think we are going to be successful, and it will. Unfortunately, Taiwan is not able to help us yet, but I hope we can do something with the U.S. Congress.
Right. Okay. Well, that leads us to our next question. Just going back to the support of the West. It says, is the support from the West, if any, beyond your presence here, an asset or liability, given the limited success of the U.S. and in particular in democracy appropriation and abroad, and the related concerns of being for the received and as an outsider in all of this. And are there past examples or inside or outside of Asia of successful government in exile campaigning? And campaigning as such as yours. I mean, it seems like the West has become a haven for a lot of these activists, but it's also, in a sense, been as you've seen here, been a liability. We have never really seen a support from Congress all the time, and so how hopeful are you with this regarding the Hong Kong Parliament?
I'm very disappointed with the British. They care more about the British interest in Hong Kong. These huge trading companies, British trading companies, are making huge money in the last 30 years because through Hong Kong, they are shipping all the goods to China. They are agent for all kinds of luxury goods. And China, as you know, bought huge amount of luxury goods in the last 30 years. So the British made a lot of money. And of course, some of that money went back to England and support their election. Naturally, I mean, they are British. So what happened is they can't afford to piss off the Chinese Communist Party. Otherwise, they'll take it on they will revenge on the British companies. So we never had much help from the British, and we don't expect much help. They have this BNO passport situation to take in a lot of Hong Kong people, but that's not what we want. We want our own home. I mean, they're giving us a place to live is not good enough, and so U.S. of course is quite different. Especially the Congress has been very, very helpful, and we hope it will be even more so. And Congress, of course, we know they represent the people, meaning people are very, very angry at the Chinese Communist Party. My rough guess is about 80% of them are against the Chinese Communist Party. So it's been reflected from the congressmen and the Senate. So a lot of resolutions are in our favor. So we want to see the Chinese Chinese economy really hit the bottom, and then they plead for help, and then the U.S. or the free world force them to give up communism. There should not really, at this time of age, there should not be communism or totalitarian like Korea, Iran, and Venezuela, and of course China.
So just you mentioned Congress. I mean, it's a few years ago, Congressman Scott Perry from Pennsylvania introduced a bill that proposed to designate the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, as a transnational criminal organization. So you said we have to at least hope for the Chinese economy to be down, to be more down than it is right now. But tell us a little bit about this whole idea of a transnational criminal organization. I know that's something that you have also been pushing for many years. Do you think that could be another way, designating it as a TCO could be another way or a solution to all of this?
China is only a nation in a facade. It's really behind it. Everything is controlled by the Communist Party. Like Hong Kong is not controlled by the State Council. The Communist Party have direct control of Hong Kong. So every company, every shop is controlled by the Communist Party. You are not dealing with a normal nation. And the normal nation, even you can see in the last administration, the Prime Minister basically said nothing. He's sidelined. It's Xi Jinping, who is the head of the party secretary, was dictating everything. So this is not a nation. It's like there are many families, maybe 20 very powerful families from revolutionary days. They control China, very much like the New York gangster family. And the family will have like a commission, they have meetings, and they will decide on the leader. Xi Jinping came like that. So you're dealing with a bunch of gangsters, and they've been committing crimes throughout their 100-year history. 100 years history. That's why if you really look through their history, read them completely, from the formation of the CCP to now, they've been committing crime. It's a crime family. The whole thing is that's why I named them as a transnational criminal organization. There's such a crime in the U.S. They use it against the drug people in South America, and also the terrorists in the Middle East, and they are a criminal. Look at this, what they are doing to the fentanyl. I mean, they're shipping fentanyl legally. I mean, from China. They know exactly a huge amount raw material into Mexico. They work with the Colombian cartel and the local Mexican mafias, manufacturing them, smuggle them into U.S. And I think the number of deaths in North America is way over 100,000 a year. This is much more than a war. And this is their chemical warfare. And of course, the COVID is their biological warfare. They are at war with the United States. And people have to take them seriously. It's not a competitor. No, it's not a trading partner. And this thing about not decoupling with them, and they call it de-risking, the risk is the CCP. I mean, you cannot say this business, I don't want to take risks, I don't do business with them. The whole risk is the CCP is the risk. So you should stay away from CCP altogether, and should not even let them come to this country. No treaty, no signing of anything. And this visiting is a waste of time.
So when you say the visiting, you mean the
Blinken, the Yellen,
Right.
And now going to be the what's the Commerce Secretary?
Right. Yellen. Yeah.
No, Commerce Secretary. Raimondo.
Sorry, my apologies. Right. So it seems like the designation of the CCP as the transnational criminal organization is a perhaps one of our biggest solutions, right, in order to combat.
Yes, once you designate them as a criminal organization, you can't do business with them anymore. You cannot sign a contract. Mm-hmm. And then even Xi Jinping he's the head of this crime organization. How can you receive him here? It's like Putin. Now he's not welcome in South Africa because he's violated human rights. So they don't let him come. This is how we should treat the CCP.
You know, Elmer, that just going back to Hong Kong, you know, let's seeing what they're doing to their own people and to China. One of the other questions that we received from our audience was if would it be correct to say that as Westerners, firstly, it's important for us to recognize what the CCP does to its own people and try to see the reality of what it would be like if the CCP would somehow expand globally on a permanent basis. I mean, would it be a correct thing to say that they will do things that are much worse than they do their own people?
No, what they're doing in Hong Kong, the next in line will be Taiwan.
Right.
If they take over Taiwan, and then the One Belt, One Road. And if you look at how much they have infiltrated, look at the White House. Seriously, they are very successful in infiltrating the White House. I mean, and bribery. I mean, this is not a secret anymore. So England, Europe, they are doing it in everywhere. They are Canada. They are meddling with those countries' election. Almost all of them. So their infiltration is huge on a worldwide scale. Not only the Confucius Institute, and even today you go to the Ivy League schools, they are all paid by China.
Right. With the research, we're even seeing that even just my alma mater, University of Rochester, we have seen a lot of exchanges with Chinese universities. Some of them, it seems very questionable as well. You know, so just touching back even on the Hong Kong Parliament, with all of this trouble going on, do you think the Hong Kong Parliament would be an example? I think it, in a sense, some have expressed that it's a source of hope, right, for the Westerners to see that, well, you know, despite all the challenges that are happening within China, there are a glimpse of light coming out where people are still seeking democracy. So the other question that we received from the audience was that, do you think the Hong Kong Parliament is something that would eventually, in a sense, unite the Hong Kong and the Chinese people who are trying to seek democracy? I know you mentioned that this is particularly just for Hong Kong, but it just seems like we're seeing that could be a uniting factor among all the people within China and Hong Kong.
In the last 40 years, Hong Kong has been like a model for China. Everything we do in Hong Kong, China basically copied. So if we're successful in Hong Kong, I'm absolutely sure, not only Guangdong area, but many parts of China will follow. I've talked to people from Tibet. The Tibetan right now, only those outside China can vote. They would love to have their few million local Tibetans in Tibet. They would like to join in. And Uyghurs also. So Mongolians. So we believe it will come. If we can have this system, not only for voting, but for polling, that would scare the hell out of the CCP. Then you say, do you like Xi Jinping to be the party secretary or the head of the state? I mean, immediately you get a result. This is scary for them. So I believe if we are successful in Hong Kong, it's a big gamble, then it may very well affect the rest of China.
Well, you said it'll affect the rest of China, but there is one factor that's sort of keeping the authoritarianism that's in line right now, which is basically the PLA. So just touching upon that, how loyal is the CCP or is the PLA to the CCP? Do Chinese officers, also soldiers, know that they are part of a party army and not the national army? You see, it's in a sense, some have argued that China really doesn't have a military. It just has a bunch of personnel in uniform serving a single party for their own purpose. So what type of resistance like from the PLA or from others do you see will happen?
I think overall in China, even the Communist Party members are not very happy. Can you imagine your property price gone down by 40% and still dropping? So this is a very serious. 70% of personal asset in China is your apartment or your house. So when that dropped by 40% and still dropping, eventually it will be like Japan, to be about 1/3 of the original value. That's very scary. People are very unhappy. As simple as that. And then, of course, unemployment, and then bad business shutting down. This is very serious. They used to have pride when the economy was rising, but now everybody understood really what happened is the one-man rule. If China is allowed to, every province is like the United States, allowed to have their own autonomy, then China's GDP may be 4 or 5 times of today. And I just want to tell you the Chinese GDP is a lie, total lie. It's about, the real GDP is about 1/3 of what they claim. What happened is every year they keep on lying. So it's a compounded lies. So, you cannot start from year one because every year you use the last year's number, right? You build up. If the last year is compounded, then it keep on compounding. So we believe the Chinese GDP is only about $6 trillion instead of $18 trillion a year.
So with all this trouble happening, do you think there will be any type of resistance from the PLA? Well, we'll see a situation where, in a sense, if the economy is really this bad, like what happened in the old Rome towards its decline, our soldiers just simply decided, okay, well, we're not going to work anymore. Are we seeing that type of scenario?
They are, the current military are all single child, all right? When you have a single child and the parents, they have mother and father and 4 grandparents. This is what 6 elderly people pinning their hope on one kid. And what if that kid die in war? It's a very serious. So nobody is interested to go to war. When you have a lot of children, it's a different story. When you really, since the 80s, they had this single child policy. So nobody wants to fight. And also, they know how powerful, from the Ukraine war, they know how powerful the U.S. weapons are. So everybody's scared. They don't want to be ashes, the U.S. missiles are so good, all the weapons. So in the military, they're afraid of going to war.
So in a sense, when things like the Hong Kong Parliament, sprouts out and it takes a solid ground on a political level, do you think I guess just going back to our original question is, do you think there will be a chance that some even Communist Party officials who are not happy with the government at all, also including PLA members, do you think there will be a chance for them to even just contribute to the growth of the Hong Kong Parliament? It seems like with all the with all of the troubles that we're seeing, that could be a reality. Just maybe they'll do it out of spite against the CCP or just against Xi Jinping. Do you see that happening?
No, I think they are also they have VPN, using their VPN, so they read a lot of outside news, and I believe with such a opportunity, and we are talking to many interviews and so on, I think news will reach them. And over time, I think by the end of the year, if we have a successful election or voting, then it will be a very positive effect on the rest of China.
Well, we're coming towards the end of our time here, but we'd like to just talk about what's happening. Just going back to with you and your family. Recently, we've heard from multiple news outlets of what has happened to your family. We've never really seen this happening in Hong Kong, but well, not publicly, of course, but they have recently targeted your family members while you were in exile, and it seems like they've tried everything to shut you down. And the final question that we've gotten from the audience is what keeps you going? I know you've touched upon this a little bit in the beginning, but what got you to get out of your comfort zone in a sense to take on this fight? Because some have argued that, well, Elmer has lived a very good life and has enjoyed all the life's benefits. But why is he getting into this fight to fight for a cause that may not succeed?
No, my family, we lost our home in Shanghai. And now they're doing it again in Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. It's like if I come to your home and throw you out, what would you do?
Right.
I mean, in China, because the communists have such a good system of really keeping people from rising up. But Hong Kong, we have a chance to rise up and do something. And I had a very good, successful, and a good life. So for me, I have to do the right thing for my final years. I'm 74 years old. I probably have another 5 good working life. I have to make use of it and do the right thing. And it's not only my family, but the entire Hong Kong. And also I'm Chinese. I think I'm doing something for China.
So, in a sense, I think it's safe to say what you're doing has become a source of inspiration, not just for the Chinese people, but as you can see in the room, there's for really the global society. One last final question that we have to ask you here at the National Press Club is that what are the things, now that we've heard your story, what are the things that you urge us, the international journalists, to do? What are some of the things that we can do to help the people of Hong Kong or even address this situation? Because I'm very ashamed to say a lot of us haven't done enough in this regard.
I hope to come back every 2-3 months and report my progress, and so that it will be very positive reinforcement between us. And please send the news out to as many journalists as possible. And that's all I want. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, we are working very hard. There are about 30 or 40 people working worldwide on this election. And we believe we just have to try our best. We don't know whether we'll be totally successful or not. But we need your support.
So where can, if one were to say, well, I want to support or even pay attention to this initiative, where can they go in order to get this information about the Hong Kong Parliament?
We have a website.
Okay.
I have a name card here, and on the back of it, the Hong Kong. We have a website, and we keep on updating it. And also, I'm on YouTube almost every day.
Right.
So the website is probably the best source of information. And I'm traveling worldwide. I'm going to San Francisco and then London and Sydney. So to talk to all the Hong Kong community to get them to vote. The only, the success or failure of what I'm doing is the number of voters. If there's a large number of turnout, then we are successful. That will be the bottom line.
Well, with that, I think it's safe to say that you definitely have the support of many journalists, not only just here, but for those watching here as well. And that concludes our event today. I just would like to also thank each and every one of you for joining us and to hear the story of Mr. Elmer Yuen. I think we can also say that we've also heard the story of many Hong Kongers who haven't had a chance to voice out their opinion. We're honored to be, again, joined by all of you. And we hopefully will see many more updates from individuals like Elmer. And we're, again, Elmer, on behalf of all of us here at the National Press Club and beyond, we wish you the best of luck, and we'll be very anxious to see what happens next. And again,
Thank you, Sion.
Thank you to all of you for coming, and please enjoy. It's taco night tonight, so please enjoy.